infinite supply is that higher belief system. It's the higher belief system that is associated with the divine. It is not the way we define supply and material resources here on the 3D earth plane. So this is about raising our consciousness to that next level and understanding that all supply comes from divine, source, God, the light, love, that which created us. So whatever word works for you, you just insert that there. So when we're talking about infinite supply, we're actually breaking down and erasing and clearing and releasing old belief systems that aren't in alignment with the truth. That infinite supply is omnipresent. It's here now. Why? Because infinite supply is God. God is infinite supply. Source is that. And source, God, is omnipresent. It's ever present right here now. So if that is true, and we know that source is infinite supply, we know that God is infinite supply, and it's ever present, it's omnipresent, then that means that your infinite supply is actually right here now. So then you're probably wondering, well, if my infinite supply is right here now, I don't see it in my bank account. I don't see it in my savings. I don't see it. So where is it? Well, it's because you're not in alignment with the frequency of truth. You're in alignment with some old belief systems and blockages that come from society and from your family system and generations that have made you believe otherwise, that keep you stuck in what we call scarcity consciousness or lack consciousness. I am speaking about that infinite supply consciousness. This is the consciousness of abundance. It always is. It's ever present here now, and it will show up in your life physically in the real world the minute you align to that truth. When you align to the frequency, it shows up. So anyone who's ever studied anything having to do with energy or the law of attraction or anything along those lines, when you align to a specific frequency, it must appear in your reality. And so if supply is not showing up in your reality, then that means that somewhere you're not really aligned to the truth of infinite supply, that source God is infinite supply. And if God is omnipresent and God is infinite supply, then infinite supply is ever present right now. And somehow I'm not connecting to it because I have belief systems around lack and scarcity that actually block me from being connected to that level of light and truth and frequency. So we're going to do some realignment today to align you back to a higher truth if you're willing to let go of some of the old belief systems that are keeping infinite supply at bay, where you're noticing it not showing up. Now, there's a lot to this concept of infinite supply, so I won't be able to share every possible aspect of it. But one of the things we first have to let go of is we have to let go of this idea that money and resources come from outside of us, that they come from the outside world, that they come from our boss or our spouse or our family. I mentioned that earlier in the call. We have to let that go. That is a lie. When the truth is, all supply comes from the invisible realm, from God's source. Everything started there and then appears in the material world. But it has to start somewhere, and it starts in the invisible realm. So, most of our infinite supply is where? Yes, it's in the invisible realm. And you're probably thinking, well, that doesn't help me, Linda, if it's in the invisible, because I cannot pay for a material house with invisible money. So I hear you. So how do we then connect to the invisible infinite supply and bring it into the material world? Again, it goes back to what I've been talking about. You have to align to the truth and let go of your own lack and scarcity consciousness and stop looking at the appearances outside of you. What I mean by that is don't look at what your bank account appears like. So it doesn't matter if your bank account is negative something. There actually is infinite supply that you can attune to make that change. But you have to first stop looking at those things that you are calling scarcity and lack and I don't have and I can't, and you're giving all your power over to this idea of money and to the economy and to people who write your paychecks thinking that they're the ones to blame and that they're the ones that control your supply. That is an absolute complete lie, and as long as you stay stuck in that thinking and in those beliefs, whether they're conscious or not, you will not be able to connect to invisible infinite supply and bring it into the material world. So this is a challenge. It's a challenge to look at the belief systems around lack and scarcity and all you're giving, your power to in the outside world to determine, the money that comes into your life. You have to look at the truth and you have to decide, oh, I need to stop believing that. I need to stop aligning with that. Because if you believe something, you align with its frequency, and then guess what? You bring it into your life. And then all of a sudden you have all this proof all around you of that belief that you have. So if you believe that the economy and people outside of you and your spouse, your boss, your company controls your supply, then guess what they do? Because that's your belief and that's what you're bringing into your reality field. If you choose, so the challenge today is, the invitation I'm presenting to you is to let that go. Let all of that go. Just for, let's say, a month, decide, okay, I'm going to let go of the belief that this outside world writes my paycheck. I'm going to let go of the belief that my boss or my company or my business or, my family, my parents, my spouse, wherever you get the money from. I'm just going to, for a moment, just let that go. That there's no such thing as lack consciousness, that there's no such thing as scarcity consciousness. I'm going to let all of that go. This is what I'm asking you to do. Let all of those belief systems go, because those are your blocks. And there's hundreds, thousands of belief systems embedded within the idea of lack and scarcity. There's only enough to go around, you've heard them all. And many times, these particular beliefs are coded in your DNA from generations before you, from your parents, your grandparents, etc. And you were taught in society and by schools and by your parents, etc., certain ideas about money and supply and finances and how it all works. And I'm not saying that on the 3D plane, on this material plane, things don't work the way they do. Of course they do. And everything had to start somewhere. And it starts in the invisible realm where infinite supply begins and where infinite supply ends. Well, it doesn't end because it's infinite. So, in order for you to align to this higher truth, you have to be willing to say, I'm not going to give power over or thought to or attention to anything having to do with lack or scarcity in my life. I'm not even going to look at it. I'm not going to look at my bank account right now. I'm not going to let that mean anything. So we put meaning on these things and then we give them power and then we can't shift it. We can't change it. So we're literally right now, I'm asking you, take back all your power from the ways that you have given your power over to particular beliefs around how money comes from this earth plane, when actually it doesn't. All supply comes from the invisible realm. It all comes from the infinite, from source, God, whatever word works for you there. It comes from there. And when we tune into that level of frequency, then monies can show up in very unique and many times miraculous ways that we would never have thought of. Beyond our paycheck, beyond the people that are providing money to us right now. Because you're tuning into the higher truth. You're tuning into the fact that infinite supply comes from the invisible realm. That means you have to connect to that invisible realm. You have to connect to that God presence, the omnipresence of Source, because the omnipresence of Source is connected to and is infinite supply. It is that. So now we're going to go one truth level higher. So follow me here. And if for some reason your mind can't follow me, no worries. I just want you to open to receive the transmission that's in these words. So if God is omnipresent, ever present everywhere, and God is infinite supply, and infinite supply is present everywhere, where are we in this story? Where do we fit into this cosmology? See, this is where everyone goes awry, because we have been taught some really interesting, very erroneous beliefs about ourselves, who we truly are, and who God is. Now, ultimately, no one can know God. God is an unknowable essence. So we don't know God, but we do know of, and we have experienced the virtues of divinity. We know that Source is kind and generous and loving and honest, etc., because we can also express those higher virtues in ourselves. And if we were created in the image of that divine, then we know that the divine has these beautiful, powerful virtues. So there's ways you can know aspects of divine. So today I'm talking about an aspect of the divine, which is infinite supply, and connecting to that infinite supply. And if infinite supply is not outside of you, then where is it? It's clearly within you. No supply comes from outside of you. I know it looks like it does. It's an appearance. The truth is, it comes from within. When you connect to the divinity, to the omnipresent God source love within you that's already present, it's connected to the presence of infinite supply. So in that moment when you connect with the truth, God, divine source, is omnipresent within me. I'm an expression of that beautiful omnipresence, and it's connected to infinite supply. It is that. That means I am that. I can connect to that infinite divine supply within me that's connected to Source that created me. So this is about going inward, not asking in the outside world to give you money. You're going to go inward and ask. And you're not even going to ask, actually. You're just going to go inward and you're going to connect to that truth. And as you connect to that truth, that's when you open up the energetic frequency doors for supply to begin flowing into your life in very unique and miraculous ways that have nothing to do, in some cases, with the outside world. Yes, the outside world will respond, and maybe the money or the thing, the object you're wanting will show up, but it's because you went inwards, not outwards. So you have to remember a couple of things. First one is God is omnipresent. God is everywhere now. God is ever present within you. You are an expression of that omnipresence. That means that God is everywhere now, right now, inside you. You don't have to go up in the sky. You don't have to go to a church. You don't have to go find this concept of source God anywhere. It's within you. It dwells in your heart. This is where divine actually is. And you want to connect to that omnipresence, that divine energy of that which created you, your source, because that which created you is connected to infinite supply. So when you connect to that divine within you that's connected to infinite supply, it connects you to that infinite supply. And it opens up that channel of supply for you. This is the practice. This is the practice. It's about moving into a higher truth beyond lack and scarcity consciousness, letting go of all of your beliefs that money and supply comes from the outside world, and instead practicing going inward. It's about going inside of yourself and accessing the truth from within, which then affects your reality on the outside. So we're going to do a meditative practice that is going to help you begin connecting to this truth. And when you connect to this truth, you dissolve all of the lies and the blockages and the illusions. And the more you connect to this truth, the more those blockages and those lies and those illusions will break down until every day you wake up knowing you are infinite supply, and in every moment, God's source will supply what is needed or required for your life's path. But that's going to take some commitment from you. It's going to take practice from you to get to that place. So it's very important that you begin to question your beliefs about money and finances and where that all comes from. And again, it doesn't come from this outside world. I know it appears that way. And that's what happens. We get lost in the appearance of things and we forget the truth. I'm asking you to step into a higher truth. Forget about appearances. If the appearances were actually true, nobody on this planet would have issues with money or finances or supply. So that means something's gone awry. It means we're believing something that is a lie and it's false, and it's creating the struggle. God, divine source, never, never, ever created its creation in order for us to lack. So if we're lacking and we're in scarcity consciousness, it's because we are connecting to lies and illusions on this earth plane that are keeping us from our divine right to be supplied in every moment. In all of the major world religions, God has written through those who've channeled divine revelation that we are provided for. We are. But if that's not showing up in your life, it's because somewhere you are not in alignment with that truth. Because on a conscious or an unconscious or a subconscious level, you have been programmed with beliefs that are keeping you from aligning with this higher truth. That source is invisible. It comes from what we call the invisible realm, the formless realm. And as we connect to that formless, invisible realm of infinite supply, we then call it into the material world. But it's only when we move into these higher levels of beliefs and we let go of, well, not beliefs, of truth, and we let go of the beliefs that are keeping us from these truths. There's been a lot of interesting programming in the world that comes from our families, their beliefs, our teachers, how we were raised, educational systems, cultures we've been in. Oh my gosh, there's so many ways we've been programmed with a lot of illusion and lie around infinite supply. And that's what keeps us stuck in the lack and the scarcity. It's literally blocking us from this higher frequency of truth. So again, I'm going to repeat this because the more you hear it, the more it begins to sink in and break down certain beliefs that you may be holding that are keeping you from connecting to that infinite supply in the invisible realm, in the formless realm that is right there waiting for you when you connect, so that it can be invited into form, into the material world to support you on your life path. Again, divine did not create us to be in lack. God's source did not create us to suffer in poverty. Why would a divine perfection that we call God do that? Makes no sense. But we've been taught that in an interesting way. Why have we been taught that? Because it's a way that the masses give their power over to a few. It's a programming. And we are waking up as a whole humanity, and we're beginning to see the lies that we have been taught, the lies that have been imprinted into us from generations that came before us. We're awakening to higher truths now. Our minds, our consciousness is beginning to question things and wondering, well, why is this way? This doesn't seem to fit with divine truth. What's that about? So we're being asked, we're being called by divine to come back to the truth, to align back with the truth. And one of these truths is infinite supply is ever present, omnipresent, right here, right now, all around you, actually within you, because it's connected to the God omnipresence within you. So when you connect to that, you then connect to that infinite supply that opens up those channels so that infinite supply can flow to you as needed. Divine source knows what you need. In fact, I'm going to shake you up a little bit here, and I'm going to say something. You don't need to ask God. I said that. You don't need to ask God for your supply. Why? Because God is omniscient. Divine is all-knowing. Divine is within you. So, of course, Divine knows everything you need. You don't even have to ask. And I know that sounds crazy because we've been taught, ask God for this and ask God for that. Well, guess what? God is not an errand boy or an errand girl. And it's not just this machine you go to and say, hey, I need this. That's not God. That's a really messed up concept of something that created all in the universes. So we have to remember who we are and this concept of source that created us. It's not something you just, go to like a machine or an errand boy. Hey, get me this. I need this, please. That's not how you interact with divinity. And we've been taught that that's how you do it. So I understand that. And it's going to be an undoing of some of the ways that we've been taught that are actually, again, blocking us from connecting directly with the divine supply in the invisible realm that's already here for us. When we realize that infinite source divinity has its home in our heart. And when we go inward instead of looking outward, we connect to that. So now we're going to go into this meditation. And I call it a meditation into the void. So many people have talked about, where things come from. And you can go look up many writings around the void. It's the place of no thing where all was created. Think of it as the womb space of God, the womb space of divine, where everything becomes manifest. It starts in the invisible. It starts in the void, in the no thing, and then it manifests into the material world. So this meditation helps you move into that space of no thing, space of silence, where you can feel, sense, hear the presence of divinity within you, where you can sense the presence of divine, that omnipresence. And in that space of silence, you begin to realize, wow, everything here in this void is everything I will ever need in my lifetime. It's already here. It's present. It's this infinite, beautiful, invisible realm where all things were created by divine source. And divine source is within us, and we have access to go into this place of the void, this place where we can feel, sense, or know the presence of that which created us. So it's a very sacred and it's a very powerful meditation that's going to require some practice to get there. So I'm going to walk you through the meditation, but you may or may not get to this place of silence and the void. I don't know. Depends on how many years you've been meditating and how easily you're able to do this. Or it could be that just grace comes in and takes you there. So we're going to invite grace to be here because divine grace is magical and does everything. So we're going to invite in divine grace to be here to assist us to move into that place, that silence, the void where divine source is ever present. Because when we move into that place where all was created, we begin to feel and sense and find a peace that everything is supplied. And when you move into that frequency of peace, knowing all is supplied in every moment without major effort from you, then you release out the scarcity and the lack consciousness. You release out the belief systems and the struggle. When you stay in the struggle and the challenge with supply and finances, it will continue. You have to let it go. So by doing this meditation and going into this state for a couple of minutes every day, you begin to loosen the bonds of these old belief systems, these illusions, these lies, the scarcity, lack consciousness, that has kept you bound, caged in this belief of no supply or limited supply. There's no such thing as limited supply. I know you may be experiencing that or you've seen that in the outer world, but we're not going to the outer world to solve our problems. We're going to where the problem can be solved instantly, which is going into the inner realms, in the presence, the omnipresence of the divinity that's inside of us. That's where these issues get solved immediately. But we're going to have to practice that because many of us have not, again, had practices that we go this deep. So let's begin right now by closing your eyes. And we're asking Grace to surround each and every one of you who are hearing this call live or who will hear this call later. Just closing your eyes and dropping into a beautiful place of complete nothingness, darkness, a void in space where there's no stars. It's infinite. Just do your best to imagine this beautiful velvet, infinite darkness all around you, where there are no stars. It's this place of complete silence, the place where divinity resides within you. This is not a place that is outside of you. It is within you. You have access to this void of creation within your heart, within you. So you're diving down deep into yourself, into this silent place of no thing, of nothing. It's just a void. It's infinite. It's silent. And it's peaceful. And as best you can, I just want you to stay in this beautiful velvet dark void of no thing, of nothing. This is the womb of God or divine within you. And you're basically going to say, Divine Source, God, Love, I'm here. I'm going to move into presence. I'm here. And you're also going to say, I'm not here to ask of anything, because you know all and you know everything that I need or want or desire. There's no asking God anymore. We're just coming into this beautiful void where there's the ever presence of divinity within you. Peaceful. It's silent. And you're going to let yourself be there. You're not asking for anything. You're not pleading with God. Remember, God is omniscient, knows all. You don't need to ask for anything. You're just going to be in this beautiful void of creation where all things go from formless to form. You don't need to use your mind in any way to manipulate anything. You're just allowing yourself to come into your own divine presence. And you're allowing this beautiful void of creation to surround you in silence. And I want you to feel into this void. Everything that has ever existed and will ever exist comes from this void of creation. Everything. Every material thing, money, doesn't matter what it is, has come from this invisible realm. This is a high truth. And you're just sitting here, becoming one with this beautiful, invisible realm of creation, where infinite supply already exists. So just be in the silence of the no thing. Nothing to ask, nothing to do. You're just being. And I say this takes practice because our mind wants to chatter. Our mind wants to think about things. It thinks it's got to do something. And that's why it takes practice to go into this meditation until the mind finally goes quiet. And if you're someone who is new to this kind of meditation, they say it takes up to 2.5 hours sometimes in the beginning for your mind to finally go quiet. This is why I'm inviting you to practice going into this meditation every day for a couple of minutes until the mind finally goes quiet, has nothing to say, nothing to visualize, nothing to do. When you go into this place of the invisible realm where infinite supply is, you connect to it. And in that space, it's like God goes, "Hi, I've been waiting for you. Here's all this infinite supply. But you've been out there in the outside world connecting to all those people and your bosses and your spouse, thinking the money's coming from out there, but your supply is coming from out there. And I've just been waiting for you to come in here because right here is where your supply actually is." So that's kind of how I see that. It's like God's going, "Oh, finally, they showed up. All the supply they've been asking for is right here." And that is the truth. Your supply is right here within you. It's in this beautiful velvet dark void of no thing. It is invisible. And as you connect to this beautiful space of no thing, you connect to the infinite supply. I know it sounds so simple. It is. But then, of course, it's not, because we have so many belief systems that have blocked us from this truth and connecting at this level to divine omnipresence, which then connects us to divine infinite supply. God is omniscient. Divine source knows what you need. It is already supplied right here in this void of creation. It's already here. You just have to connect to it every day. Ignore the appearances in the outside world. Give no power over to your struggle with lack and scarcity and money. Stop all of that. Like all of it. I mean, like, don't even think about, I don't have money, I'm struggling with money, how am I going to pay my bills? You have to stop literally all of that and go into this meditation on a daily basis, connecting to the omnipresent divinity within you that's connected to this infinite supply that is all around you in that void. And you just go into a space of silence and peace until you feel complete. It could be 3 minutes. You might want to sit there longer. It's up to you. And then you're done with the meditation and you go about your day. And you just stay conscious, not to go back into thinking about scarcity and lack and the appearance of things and what's in your bank account. You have to let all of that go. That's the challenge. Because the minute you come back to this belief in scarcity and lack, you're now back in the old world, the old frequency, the false reality. You've let go of the true reality, the divine reality, that you are infinitely supplied. That's why this meditation is so important. It keeps reminding you to come back to the truth, to where infinite supply really comes from. Feeling that peace that you are taken care of and supplied. You don't have to keep asking God anymore. God knows. God's been waiting for you to come into alignment with truth. God doesn't go out there looking for you and, tapping you on the shoulder and saying, "Hey, you're going the wrong way. Come over here." No, he gets people like me and other people to tap you on the shoulder and tell you, "Hey, you're going the wrong way. Come over here. This is where supply is." So think of it as redirecting you to the truth of where true supply really comes from. And as you continue to connect through this meditation to that infinite, divine, omnipresent source God within you that is connected to infinite supply, you will begin to feel, see, and have actual proof in the outside world of supply in all sorts beginning to show up in your life. I say this from experience. I have been practicing this type of deep meditation, going into the silence and connecting with that divine presence within me and moving into the truth that there's only infinite supply and it's already supplied for me. And I've had some pretty miraculous experiences of supply just showing up. And in one case, it showed up minutes after I did my meditation. I was, in a place going, how is rent going to get paid this month? And I didn't want to go into any worry about it. I didn't want to go into lack because I know that that doesn't serve. So I said, I'm just going to go into the meditation and connect into my own divine infinite supply within me. And we'll just see what happens. I don't have any control over it. I'm just going to go into the silence, feel the presence of divinity within me, and just let it be. I don't need to ask for anything. And I did that. And minutes later, I get a message from a client who decides that they want to buy several months of sessions from me, which actually almost exactly covered my rent for the month. And it happened within minutes. There have been a couple of other situations like that have happened recently as I have practiced going inward and releasing out all appearances on the outside world of lack or scarcity. I just don't even look at those. I don't pay attention to them. I don't let them make me go into worry anymore. I really stay very conscious to remember that infinite supply is already here. It's omnipresent. It's around me right now. I just have to connect to it. And then divine, God's source, love, when I connect to it, the channel opens. And miraculously, in whatever way divine chooses, that supply shows up. So I might get an awareness during my meditation that I need to put out an offering, or I may get an awareness that I need to do a networking with someone, or that I just need to reach out to someone. I listen to those nudges, those intuitive nudges, because that's aspects of my higher wisdom telling me, here's a way that you can open up the channel by taking some simple actions, but you don't have to go out there and work hard for it. You don't have to do that. You can really step into this place of infinity within yourself and tune into that supply. And in that space, miracles can happen. Supply can come into your life in ways you never thought. That could even mean a new job is offered to you, or you get a raise unexpectedly, or, you find a check in the mail that you didn't know, was coming to you. Those are the ways that divine works, in very unique ways that you can't even control. And that's what's important, is you can't control and tell divine source how to bring you money. So this is the other thing. We are little small egos. We think we can control this. We're like, okay, God, I really want you to give me a winning lotto ticket. That would solve all my problems. Please. Okay, that doesn't work. When you're talking that way, you're not actually talking to God. I don't know who you're talking to, but you're not talking to God. Because God does not respond to that, and that's not where God is. So you have to let go of the ways that you think God needs to bring supply to you, and instead go into this silent meditation, into the void of creation. Feel the presence of divinity already in you. Feel the presence of supply already there. Move into peace. And in that space, things will happen in the outside world. And it might be that somebody gifts you a lotto ticket that's a winner. Who knows? But it doesn't start from the outside in. It doesn't start with you asking, God like an errand boy. None of that works. Because if it did, guess what? All of our prayers would have been answered and we'd have no problems. That doesn't work. It's not the truth. So you can let that go. And you can now start to practice going inward into this divine presence within you in your heart, feeling that divine omnipresence of source within you, and feeling the omnipresent energy of infinite supply that divine already has there for you. Again, divine's just been waiting for you to come into, the right place for that supply to open for you. The problem is pretty much every person out there on the planet is going to the wrong places for their supply, and this is why so many are struggling and in scarcity and in lack, because they're going to the wrong place. So this is about going inward. And this divine supply is consistent. It flows. It blesses your life. You know, when we try to control supply in other ways through our own efforts and our own ego, guess what? Supply comes and it goes. We have it, then we don't have it. And then we have some more, and then we don't have it. And then we're afraid we're going to lose it. It's because we're coming from the material world with supply. Yes, I know there are people out there with millions and billions of dollars, and in any moment they could lose it all because they're not tuning into where supply truly comes from. So many of those people are always in fear that they're going to lose everything. And it's because they're not connected to the truth. That supply is infinite, and it comes from within, not from their egoic efforts. Now, if you are given guidance by your divine self to ask your boss for a raise, and that's coming from a divine guidance within you, absolutely listen to that guidance. That's part of the process of opening those channels. But it needs to come from you being in meditation first and listening to what the omnipresence of divine wants to share with you first. Sometimes it's just being in the silence. God knows, and all is supplied and answered. But it's going to require practice to begin to trust this process, because it's so different from what we've been taught in the material world. And if what we've been taught in the material world really worked, we wouldn't have scarcity and consciousness, and lack and poverty in this world. It would be gone by now. So why not implement a higher truth and see what happens? Again, it's practice. You have to be willing to let go of the old belief systems and invite in a higher truth. Infinite supply is all around you, omnipresent now. It's about connecting to it from within and letting the channels open. So I am going to honor our hour. I know we went over just a little. Sorry for those of you who jumped on earlier. Apparently I had part of the group on hold, so I was talking and you didn't hear me. So when I send out the replay, you will hear the whole thing because it was recorded. So you'll hear the whole thing. So anyway, I hope you have a very beautiful day. I'm going to bless you all with so much love and light, opening you to the higher truth that infinite supply is already ever present around you. It's a matter of going inward to connect to that infinite supply through the omnipresence of God's source love within you, and then allowing in that silence and in that peace for things in the outer world to be moved around by God in ways that you know not, that will then open you to receiving that supply. You, by divine right, already have everything that you need right now to live this life well. It's a matter of aligning to it so that it happens. So with that, I send so many blessings to all of you. Have a beautiful, amazing, blessed day. If you want to reach out to me, there's ways you can reach me through text or through email or through responding to an email that I sent to you. And if you're wanting anything such as a private session, or you want to be part of a program that will help you to realign to a higher truth around supply, around your life, if you have an area of your life that you're suffering or struggling in, and you're really ready to make that change and shift those patterns, just know that I'm here. And there's many other people out there too that do wonderful, wonderful work. I encourage you to not suffer alone. There are absolute solutions, some of them very quick and fast, and just one session can shift suffering that you have had for many years. So be willing to ask for the assistance and the help that you need, because we're not here to be isolated islands. We're here to support each other and moving into higher levels of healing and light and consciousness and love and joy and peace. So we're not asked to do that all by ourselves. So if you feel guided, please give me a call. I can share with you the different programs I have, or we can just set up a session. You have a very blessed day, feeling you all in love and light, saying thank you, thank you, thank you to divine presence, to the divine infinite supply that is here. It is done, it is done, it is done. Wonderful to have you on the call, and to those of you who will listen to this recording later, many, many blessings to you. So much love. Have a beautiful, beautiful Friday, or whatever day it is for you when you're listening to this. And we will connect again soon for our call next month. Goodbye, everybody.